And hello, all of my fellow nerds out there. This is Oracle Nerd Richie, and welcome back once again to the demo of Our Life Now and Forever. So, I believe we're still in the prologue. Yeah, three episodes in, and we're still just getting into the prologue of the entire game. As far as I'm aware. But, but our character has started their first day of school alongside Chu and Tamarak, and we're going to be continuing the story from just exactly right from where we left off. I was actually having a few thoughts about an idea for the channel earlier. I don't know what it was, but it kind of just slipped my mind. Anyways, it was okay. You were close enough. Mrs. Murray patiently waited for the people to get settled. Every seat had a kid in it, and final words were said before the room faded into short silence. That's when things changed from you being just someone in some room to a student who had to listen to a lesson. Hello, class. Thank you all for being here today. Welcome to your first day of 5th grade. She gave a round of applause. Normally, the people sitting and watching were the ones who clapped for the person standing in the front, but you guessed Mrs. Murray did things differently. We're going to have a lot of fun this year, and you'll learn a lot too. But also, you're the big kids on campus now, so I'm counting on you to set a good example for the rest of the students here, alright? Yes, Mrs. Murray. Around half the class answered her. Part was in a loud cheer, and others were bored grumbles. The teacher accepted both moods warmly. Thank you. Let's start with roll call then. Crossed past the desks to get a folder off of the little cubbies in the corner. She got that in and left her stiff brown jacket behind. Teacher flipped through the folder open as she stepped back into the center spot. The cozy sweater made everything about her seem softer. You know the story. I'm going to shout out everyone's name in alphabetical order, first name first. When I call your name, raise your hand and say, "Here, Mr. Murray. I'm so excited and happy to be at school with you today." That time, almost the whole class started to chatter. There were snickers and shared between friends and whiny outcries of, "We can't do that," and someone even booed. Okay, just here will work, and now I know you're listening. Her soft voice had a jovial kick. She had fun with her job. Let's begin. Your first name started with R. Oh, I love how the game actually recognizes that. It probably would be a while before she called you. That was kind of cool. You didn't have to go right away, but wouldn't have to wait forever either. I was somewhere in the middle. Mrs. Murray went through each of the A kids and just took away from there. Hugh Lin didn't really raise his hand. He just popped his thumbs up in his laid back lean. Here, Mrs. Murray. That worked. That worked though, and your teacher moved on. And then you were next. Oh, because R actually comes after Q. That makes sense. I didn't realize that. And then you were next. You knew it was not just because she wasn't your first name letter, but because her keen eyes were on you before she even said anything. Richard O'Mac? I'm not here. uh, here. Here. Harsh words spread through the clusters of the other kids before you denounced yourself. They had no idea you were a person who existed in the world. Now they did. Teacher gave her approval with a nod. You sat up tall in your seat after a job well done. And roll call rolled on after your turn. Tamarack Bauman? Tamarack's arm shot up in record time. It had already been wound up and ready for that moment. I'm Tamarack, that's me. It wasn't exactly what she was supposed to say, but Tamarack got an A for effort. Miss Murray continued with the last of the names. Once every person had in a stiff red seat had a turn to say they were there, Miss Murray gave Hugh and Tamarack a real introduction to the class, the one she had warned you would be coming. They talked about how you just moved to town and what people were supposed to call you and everything. Mrs. Murray must have asked your ma and Tamarack's Omi and Opa to know all about that. You appreciated that she went through all the work so the other kids would know you. That was the end of the not really teaching us anything except names part of the class. Mrs. Murray took a paper from the folder out of the flap and moved it to the other side. Please take out your pencils and notebooks now. I'll be going over our plans for the year and what will be expected of all my students. Your mom had packed a fresh notebook with freshly smoothed pages that didn't have a single smudge for you to use. You grabbed something to mark it up if you needed to. It was a plain old pencil. I mean, why would I not just use a pencil? A pencil just makes sense. You gripped it tight in your right hand. Yes, dominant hand, by the way. Tamarack leaned over her bag as close as possible. Her eyes were squinted and set right on Mrs. Murray. She started clicking her shoes together again, even faster than before. If her legs beat any quicker, she might turn into a one-girl-powered motor and drive the desk around the room. Tamarack was definitely eager to get the information being told, but there wasn't a single piece of paper or pencil anywhere on her desk to take notes. Maybe she only had to listen to know. Over the other group of tables, Chu's face was pressed against his right fist that he had propped up against the desk. He was writing slow, lazy lines with his left hand in a plain spiral notebook. It wasn't his special one. It was your neighbor. That was your neighbors. And then there was you. Class was easy, and you went along with it. I mean, honestly, for me, school was like really easy. Like, especially math. I know a lot of people don't like math, but I'm telling you guys, it's not that hard of a subject. I will seriously defend it to the high heavens and back. It is not that hard of a subject. Just pay attention. God, yeah, sorry you guys had to hear that. I know. Lots of bloopers here and there. School was so simple, you didn't even need to try very hard. You do your best to keep up as much as possible. Though, I wouldn't say I'm a prodigy at everything at school. I guess I'd probably say I just did my best to keep up. Yeah, that honestly would be me. Mrs. Murray talked about the subjects she'd be covering, upcoming holidays and activities, the way students would get graded, school rules, and even more. You weren't sure she'd ever stop having new things to tell everyone about until she cut herself off. He said something about when parent-teacher conferences might happen and paused there. Chu? You snuck a glance away from him and you couldn't. From the front of him, you couldn't help it. He totally lost that droopy pose instead. Autumn was hunched over a page, and it was from a special notebook, and he was scribbling in a hurry. Yeah? The teacher was as breezy as ever. He didn't try to sound like a student being called out by a teacher. He was polite enough to pull himself up to look at the person speaking to him. Am I going too fast, or is there anything else I can do differently? You've been very uncomfortable. Oh, the pencil dropped and clattered on the desk. Both Chu's hands hovered over the piece of paper. He stared at it unsurely, as if he didn't know if it was suddenly too hot to touch or not. For a minute, Chu didn't know what to do. He blinked, then he started to talk again, slowly and softly. No, it's all right. He leaned fully against his chair again, and threaded his fingers together primarily while placing them over the page. From your spot in the back, you could see the edge of an easy smile on the side of his face, and even if you couldn't, you wouldn't been able to hear the smirk in his voice. I wasn't writing down what you were talking about. I'll get to that later. Don't worry over it. Eyes went wide at his boldness, and a few kids were brave enough themselves to giggle at Chu's comeback. Mrs. Murray's usual smile was faint, but it was there. Well, let me know if you change your mind. I will, thanks. She stopped the little break there and tapped her folder with the back of her hand to get the students' attention once more. Nothing but normal school stuff happened for the rest of the time. It was a lot like your old classes in other places. Golden Grove didn't have a secret way of teaching kids that the rest of the country had never heard of. You figured it would be that way, but seeing a regular lesson happen made it all clear what you'd be dealing with. And like all the classes you had before, that one was over eventually. But before the teacher let anybody get up, Miss Murray went all around the room to drop piles of paper with a few different group of desks. She explained how they were stacks of homework sheets and everyone had to take one packet with them and bring it back to finish tomorrow. Then she said bye to the students and it was okay to leave. She was your new nemesis. No, I actually never considered any of my teachers my nemesis. I liked all of my teachers. Like yeah, you might have some rough patches here and there, but all the teachers that I had, they were really cool. Except for like one teacher that I had, like one teacher was actually accused of something. Not gonna get into it. Anyways, Miss Murray was pretty smart. You liked her a lot. Yeah, that makes sense. It was gonna be good to see her again the next day and the day after that. Right next year, you kept the spell that kept Tamarack totally locked onto Miss Murray during class broke. The teacher went over to her desk and Tamarack turned to you. She stared at the pencil in your hand. Actually, it was the opposite. She was looking at the hand that was holding the pencil. I use my right hand too. We're the same. I saw Chu using his left hand. You give a thumbs up with your right hand. You put your hand to good use and made Tamarack giggle sweetly. Look how cute she is! She's so adorable! I mean, I love her and Chu equally. They're both really good. Really good characters. Really well written. Words, Richie. Don't mix up your R's with your W's. Tamarack started to hum and got to work unbuckling 2 front straps from her bag. You were listening really hard in class. The class had been tugging clicked open. She had been tugging clicked open satisfyingly. Yeah, Opa says I'm a good listener. She flipped the top flap over and in went to whatever. In went one of her homework packets, closing it all back up followed right after. That was all she had to put away because she hadn't taken anything out of the bag for a whole class. She pulled the bag closer to her and wiggled herself under the strap. There was only one thing left before she was set. Tamarack bounced off her chair and the heavy bag settled across her shoulder with a rattle. Come on, Richard. She made a dash to the coat rack where a pink scarf was waiting. Before leaving, you remembered to take the homework packet and tucked it away in the inner pocket of your bag. Nothing else was forgotten either. You put all your things back where you had taken them from. You even brushed off the stray pencil shavings and eraser bits that had gone on your side thanks to the other kids of your table group. This was all nice and clean when you finished. But as soon as you got up to leave, you couldn't because someone called for you. Hey, Richie. You checked behind you and there was Chu coming up from the front of the class. He was waving with a piece of tan brown lined paper in his hand. Hiya, Chu. It's good you're here. I've got stuff to say. Though I guess I could have told you even if you had gone. We live in the same neighborhood. It sounded like Chu struggled to wrap his head around the idea that two of you were strangers about a day ago, and now we're people who are going to be seeing each other all the time. There was a soft crinkle as Chu tapped on the edge of the special paper against his right palm again and again. You stopped being able to hear it when Chu started to ramble, though he kept doing it. Okay, so this paper. Here's what happened. I was talking to my mom and dad about it yesterday, back when it's still yesterday, and I realized something. He flapped both his arms out wide. Autumn was acting as blown away as he must have when he first learned it. Was the thing he was trying to explain. Tamarack finding my paper and sending it to you wasn't just some unexpected, unexplainable thing that we wondered about. It was sucky. What? What? It was? Yes. With drama and emotion, Chu whipped his arms up and down in rapid gestures. He needed you to feel what he was saying, which turned out to be what he imagined you had been feeling before. You got a paper airplane with a message that had your name and everything. That's exciting. It had to mean something. But it wasn't even a message for you. It was an accident? Whoa, that's the biggest letdown I can even imagine. He had been flying the page around like it was in a paper airplane, but he finally let it rest for a second when his arms dropped. All his bluster became only a sigh. If you were gonna get the note from me, it should have had something to say to you. That's what I thought of when I thought about it more. Oh, now I get it. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the end of the story, though. It was a prologue. Obvious joke is obvious. Autumn sprung back into action and raised his left arm, with the page pressed between his thumb and the rest of his outstretched fingers. And so, I've got something for you. He shook the paper in his hand, grinning cheekily. There was no way not to get what he meant, and what was supposed to be for you. You wrote me a note? That's right. Autumn switched his paper one more time to bring it down low enough for you to take. You excitedly seized the note from his hand. The page in your finger was exactly what you remember from the plain one, somehow tougher and softer than regular paper, and that same light brown color. But when you read the message, the words scribbled on it were all different than the first time. Welcome to the neighborhood from Chulin, this time actually. Oh, it's so cute. that was that that's what was written in the big clear letters. Stars and a smiley face crowded out any plain spots and the words had it covered. God. Ugh. I seriously need to get myself some better water. it was it was careful work. The little extra line on the Q was a fancy curve, and he didn't even draw the stars from the corner to corner. There weren't lines through the middle of them. The difference between a note you wanted somebody to see and the one you got by accident was huge. Some blurry things came up past the top edge of the paper. You blinked, distracted, then squinted over at the page to figure out what was going on in the room. It was Chu, high on his tiptoes. He was watching you read the note, smirking, hands tucked behind his back, all around very pleased with himself. It's pretty good, huh? Oh, what should we say? You're really thoughtful, Autumn. Yeah, that seems good. He was already standing as tall as he could, but what you said still made him grow even bigger. His chest puffs up. That lopsided smile filled out proudly. Oh, what the? No, I didn't mean to skip that. I do think a lot, but only about stuff that's worth thinking over. You gave one more glance at the message Chu had written for you. It was still there, welcoming you to the new neighborhood every time you saw it. When you looked at Chu himself again, he had finally dropped to his feet and his hands back to where they normally were. He waited there to see if you were going to do anything else. You really got to focus on class stuff during class, even though notes are cool. Why do you wear gloves inside the classroom? Is this what you were writing down in class? Nope. I came up I came up with it that way before. I came up with that way before. I had other stuff I needed to write down. You have more things to write? What? I can't tell you about all of it. But one thing is that I was putting down where everybody's seats were. I had to write it when I could see people sitting down in their spots. Chu talked fast and firm while jabbing the tip of his finger into his left palm just as fervently. He was good at lecturing for someone who was in fifth grade. Was I supposed to do that after class when everyone was gone, Mrs. Murray? No, I have reasons for things. Oh, that makes sense. Good. Even though Chu was the last one talking, he abruptly sliced a hand through the air to get that get what to get what was the conversation out of the way and have it be about something else. But wait, before I forget, I gotta tell you, I'm impressed, Ricky. The first day's gotta be the hardest when you're new, and you didn't even break a sweat in class. His hands were on his hips in a commanding pose as he talked energetically. Nothing was held back. He couldn't feel smaller next to his bright presence. And you don't think that's what he was trying to do. Hugh was starting to know you better, and it was making him look at you differently. You could handle it. What did you think would happen? You asked. What did you think would happen? I'd die? He joked. Um, I've been to school before. It's no big deal. But you've never been to this school. I, I think it's cool. Cool that it's no big deal for you. He closed his eyes and snickered. While thinking some kind of thought, he stretched and curled his fingers to feel out the way his gloves were fitting. Hugh pinched at the edges to straighten them out better. Anyway, you and Tamarack are in the back next to each other, huh? Mrs. Murray is smart. Just sometimes too smart for me. Chu, are you popular? With a huge smile, Chu swung his arms open wide. Yeah, of course. He acted like it was obvious, and it kind of was. You already knew. The paper crinkled in your hand. You've been gripping it the whole time. You twisted away to pull the zip on your bag. The welcome message you got from Chu went right next to the packet of homework Mrs. Murray had given you. Chu giving you a paper reminded you that you had one you could give him too. But you didn't think right then was a good time to do it. You gave him the paper you dropped before class. Your bag was already open from putting away the newspaper, so you stuck your hand into it again. The backpack couldn't be unzipped all the way, or everything would fall out. You made only a hole big enough for reaching around inside. Luckily, the paper from Chu's special notebook wasn't anything like the homework from Miss Murray. You didn't have to look to know it. You could just tell by touching it. But you did have to worry about mixing up the pages that was yours to keep and the one that wasn't. You had to stick your face against the cold, bumpy zipper track to read which cottony paper you had before you were sure you'd gotten it right. Then you looked at Chu again. You dropped this. That's what you said when you held the paper out to him. It worked like a ticket to a time machine, because you saw the exact same thing you did yesterday, with Chu gasping, flailing his hands and all of it. That it's you. Both his hands smacked against his chest, pressing it back while his head and shoulders and eyes jutted out in total shock. You've got another one? He squished himself so much that the next question could only come out as a bashful peep. That's the paper from yesterday, right? The one Tamarack found? He glanced at the paper for a second, then back at Chu. Decided what the words was the one you had up. You could read at least some of the message, even if it was a little bent in your hand. But you guessed it was still a shot, and Chu didn't want to miss the tiny chance he hadn't been caught losing another piece of notebook. That was exactly what happened, though. No, it's a different one. Yeah, it looks like it. Then his stiffness melted away, and Chu stood evenly with his head high again. A grin grew too, same as a flower after winter. You know, Richie, your sorcery amazes me. You and him broke out into laughter together. If you really were a sorcerer, you'd do a lot more than make Chu lose his papers, but it was still a good joke. Chu swept his left palm up towards you, kind of like how somebody might ask you for a dance in a movie. He did fancy moves like that a lot. He placed the page right there in his hand, like a paper was giving him a low five. Chu crossed his right arm over to reach into his left pocket of his pants, and now came his well-worn notebook with the pages that barely stayed something inside. He flipped it open with his thumb and positioned the missing paper squarely on top of the rest of the set. He ran his now empty fingers over the tattered sides of the notebook, pressing the corners and edges that'd be sticking out mostly back into straight lines. Then Autumn flicked his wrist to close the notebook, dropped it back into his pocket, and patted the side of his pants fondly. That's that. You did it. The page made it home. Chu didn't have anything else to say then. You could tell since he wasn't looking at you anymore. His gaze was on the move. He had already seen everything there was to see in the class that looked like all the other classes. At least he thought so. But he did find something that needed his attention, in his mind anyway. Oh, she hasn't left yet either. Wait right here. I've got another thing to do. After cupping his hands around his mouth, Chu called out past you all the way to the other side of the room. Hey Tamarack, get over here. You gotta see this. What is it? What is it? You have to look. Tamarack bounded across the room faster than an Olympic athlete. Probably. It would be close at least because she was really speedy. She did a skipping leap for her last foot before reaching you and Chu and tossed her arms straight up as she sunk the landing. The fringed strands of her pink scarf, which had securely wrapped around her neck, again, had flown up and almost tickled your nose. I'm here. Good. Check it out. Chu waved urgently for her to come closer with one hand and reached her in his right pocket with the other. That wasn't the side he kept the notebook in. He was going for something else. The two leaned in, having a one-on-one huddle. You weren't a part of it, but you could tell what he had by a little glimpse. Oh, whoops. By the little glimpse you could catch over his hunched shoulders and the sound of it. It rustled and crinkled, not a sharp way, like leaves, but in a soft, squishy way. She was holding a wadded up bag, probably from whatever grocery store Golden Grove had. He kept the bag tightly closed, gripping two sides of the top and keeping his fists pressed together. Then he suspiciously looked side to side, so no one else would be allowed to see treasures hidden inside. Tamarack did it too after him, either to double check or to not be left out, or maybe because she didn't want to miss what he might be spotting. All right, this is it. Suspense pulled in your two neighbors. Tamarack bit the nail of her thumb and totally stopped breathing. Oh, well, I didn't mean to skip that. There was nothing in the world for them right then except that bag and whatever it held. And finally, before Tamarack could fall over from nowhere, Chu parted his hands and stretched open an unusual gift wrapping. Mouth open, eyes wide, Tamarack gawked down into the bag. You figured she'd go wow or something, but she just scanned whatever it was up and down with the same eager expression. It was possible she was so blown away that her face got stuck like that, but that turned out to not be true, because she eventually saw enough for her reaction to slowly begin rumbling inside. First, it was with the edges of her lips wobbling, then her eyelashes trembling, and finally her brows pinching fiercely. Tamarack snapped her head up and glared straight into Chu's awaiting smirk. That's trash. Huh? What's in the bag? A tiny bubble of a snicker popped out from Chu's mouth. Then there was another even louder one. The laughs kept bursting bigger and bigger until he was shaking so bad that whatever was in the bag almost bounced out. It's trash. What? Yeah, it is. I said so. Being hurt, heard over Chu's giggling fit could have been a problem, but Tamarack was entirely okay with shouting. Mrs. Murray looked over at the commotion from her fancy teacher's chair. She still had that folder with the roll call paper and class schedule open. Maybe there were no rules once class was out, or maybe this kind of thing was normal with her students, because she didn't tell any of you to quiet down. She just went back to her job and stuff. By the time you focused on your neighbors again, Chu had started to calm down. Autumn Autumn shook his head and wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. Then, through the heavy breaths, he gave with a wisecracking answer. I didn't say this was something you'd want to have, just that you should see it. Why would I want to see your trash? She asked him crossly while crossing her arms to go with it. Chu, Chu gathered the handles into one hand and swung that arm up near his chest, so the bag hung over his shoulder. The pose would have fit best for someone modeling a purse 5 times more expensive than any your ma owned, and she had really nice ones for work, not a plastic bag full of garbage. I have reasons. I always got reasons. What are they? The question was cautious, wary of any other tricks Chu might pull, but the curiosity was clear in her voice. Being presented a bag of garbage was okay as long as it had some kind of secret. Well, he paused to rearrange his face into something more serious and nodded thoughtfully. Even though me losing that paper was an unexplainable mystery, I was thinking about how you just got to this town and are already having to pick up after other people to keep the forest clean. That's not fair. Still speaking as a wise mentor, Chu used his other hand to gesture tellingly at the windows. So I decided to go back outside yesterday and check the forest for litter. This was all the stuff I got so far. Oh, well, that's sweet of him. He really did have his reasons. And it was exactly like he had done with you in the note. To imagine that what Tamarack had probably thought or felt from what happened yesterday, and when it seemed like it could be as sad, he did something about it. Tamarack sucked up a gas of air and let out a squeal. Really? You cleaned the woods? I did. All of this went from being on the ground into my trash bag. Wow, that's so nice. She did about it after all. And she also kicked her feet out one after the other in a happy little dance. Her bag jostled along with her moves like a partner. It was your good idea first. What could have been humble, but he, that could have been humble, but he cocked his chin and grinned it so pleased with himself that it wasn't really anymore. Tamarack was too giddy to care or notice. Thanks, Chu. That was funny and helpful. Good job. Hmm. Well, I can pick up trash too. Doesn't everyone pick up trash when they see it? No, and some people are the people who leave litter around. Oh, I don't know why anybody would do that. Me neither. The little trio of you, Tamarack, and Chu stayed together, reunited over by the desk while the room became more and more empty of anybody else. After a while, besides you three, there was only the teacher left in class. It was empty enough and quiet enough you could hear the doorknob twist and click. That was all that happened, though. You figured someone would come in. Check behind you. The door was open a crack, and a person peeked through. From a teeny bit, you could see the person was a kid, or maybe a short grown-up. They were only half as tall as the door and were hiding behind. It definitely wasn't your ma coming to get you. Mrs. Murray was still flipping through the million papers, but she called out from her desk. It's okay, you can come in. Class is over. Oh, who is it? Is it a new character? Please tell me it's a new character. Then the door got shoved all the way open and bumped into the wall. After trying not to get noticed, being called out that way made whoever it was confident. Oh, hello. They stood in the doorway and put their hands on their hips. The hair on their head was the helmet of sunshine, orange, shining, and flaming out with rays everywhere. Your design kind of reminds me of someone. I don't know who though, but it reminds me of somebody. The person walked right in without looking at what they were seeing. It wasn't the way you or Tamarack came to class. It was the way Chu had, the way someone who had been there had before had. But this wasn't their classroom. None of the students you saw the whole day were this person. In a new school, in a whole new town, you would have been more amazed it was somebody you did know. Even though that was true, you almost thought you had met a stranger. The kid's soft brown eyes itched at your brain. You you were sure you'd seen those exact kind of eyes somewhere else before. It was especially hard to figure out when their gaze wasn't aimed at you. It had gone to the front where the teacher was. Oh, you remembered. Seeing the new kid and Mrs. Murray made you think of the matching card games you had to play in school when you were little. You just won by flipping over 4 identical chestnuts. A person with eyes like Mrs. Murray ran to her past the counting carpet and behind the desk. They threw their arms around her legs in a hug, squeezing her knees together. The teacher gently brushed those sunbeam strands until the kid tilted their head back to smile at Mrs. Murray with a toothy grin. Oh wait, is that Mrs. Murray's kid? Hi. Hello, sir. Hello, sir, 7th grade. Did you have a good first day? Darren! 7th grade, or Darren, or both, gasped and let go before smiling even wider. Chu? He darted off from the desk just like that. Mrs. Murray watched him go, rubbing at the spots of her pants that got squished. She was for sure his mom. Not only because they hugged or because of their eyes. Oh yeah, their eyes are similar. That actually makes more sense. Or Mrs. Murray wouldn't have let a normal student get away with not answering her question. And you were right. My mom is your teacher? Darren's voice came out bright and loud with a big laugh, though the sound was kind of crackly too. He had so much to express to the world, words could not barely keep it all together. Chu's own sparkling giggles joined in. He opened his arms all the way out, not holding anything back. I know. When Darren crossed the room, he stuck his own hand straight ahead and palm up. Chu flipped his arm down and over to land a low 5 smack. It was a powerful hit, but they were both protected by gloves. Chu shrugged again, not feeling the sting. This year's gonna be tough. Boys, inside voice, please. And personally, I'd say my lessons are fair. Right, yeah. Sorry, Mrs. Murray. Sorry, Mom. Darren lifted his fuzzy black earmuffs off his head, using his hands covered in fuzzy black gloves. He was in the classroom to stay, and he'd be able to hear quieter words better without that. For the first time, Darren noticed there were 2 more people in the room. That made his smile flatten. You figured you would see new kids today. Darren didn't think about that. He tried to figure out what to do or think or feel now that it would happen. Tamarack skipped saying who she was so she could jump right into Darren's face on her tiptoes. As far as kids went, Darren was as tall as Tamarack was short. Mom? You said she's your mom? A teacher is your mom? It didn't matter that Chu talked about Mrs. Murray having kids before you got there, or that a lot happened to show that Darren was definitely her son. Having a kid of a teacher in front of her was too unbelievable for Tamarack. That made Darren decide what to think about this meeting. He didn't like it at all. His face soured and backed away from Tamarack without thinking. Like a giant fluffy bumblebee was coming to get him. Tamarack Tamarack didn't let him get far from her. Yeah, yeah, Tamarack, she is his mom. Tamarack, that's not really a nice thing to say. It was funny to watch. Tamarack thinks it's weird that teachers can have kids. Darren didn't stop staring at her for a single second. He was too afraid of what she might do next to look away. But he did. But he did the thing his mom did by talking to someone, even though his eyes were focused on different stuff. It's not weird. Don't follow Darren like that. She was totally serious with the idea. It wasn't a rule, it was a law. Tamarack listened to it better than if it came from an actual teacher. Oh. Tamarack deflated to stand like a normal again and stopped scurrying towards Darren. He still walked back a couple more steps just to be safe. The whole thing made Chu sigh. It was an accident though, because he sucked in their super fast breath. Then he smiled again like it never happened. Oh, hey, everybody's gotta meet each other for real now. We do? Yeah, we do. He used his own tiptoes and smoothly twirled around and shifted from Tamarack's side to Darren's. This is Darren Murray. He hooked an arm around Darren's stiff shoulders. The warm embrace got Darren all soft. He melted over Autumn, and their hands bumped together. The two were as close as could be. He's my friend, and 12, 2 years older than us. Autumn proudly put up a peace sign. It's probably just meant two. Wait a second. Actually, now that I look at Darren, now that I look at him, he kind of reminds me of Jean Arc. If you really think about it, like seriously, compared to the two, they kind of look similar. Anyways, remember that road right from our cul-de-sac? Darren lives there. His house is the yellow one with the dark brown fence. We're almost neighbors. That's how we know each other. Yeah, the big hill. I know that. You pass a lot of homes on your way to school. You guessed people had to live in them, but you always figured you would meet a person before seeing where they lived. It was kind of weird thinking you'd gone by his place before you ever knew who Darren Murray was. Chu tilted his face so he was nose to nose with the boy down the street. That's what I gotta tell you. These are my new neighbors. What? Both of them? I thought only one kid was coming. Poor boy was more confused than ever. Tamarack could shock people even if she wasn't trying to. Hugh came to the rescue. His arm slid off Darren's shoulder and pat him soothingly on the back instead. Mm-hmm. Both of them. Autumn used his other hand to nudge his finger towards the girl of many surprises. This one is Tamarack Bauman. Granny is her actual grandma. She lives in the gray house now. It was easy for Chu to explain what happened now. If Darren had been there yesterday, he could have been seen Chu's flurry when he found out Tamarack was there. Is that what you had to do to sound smart? Act like you always knew something to people who couldn't tell the difference? Maybe it was just a Chu thing. It did work for him. Darren listened to his friend's wisdom amazed. And that, like a tiny showman in front of the audience with one person in it, Chu uncurled his finger and held his open palm towards you. Is Richard O'Mac. He's just a kid. He is the one who moved into the empty middle house with his mom. We all met yesterday. In the real world, Darren had to look down to see Chu. It was a plain fact. He had to look down on every kid in your grade. But in the shining of his dipped eyes, you could be tricked into thinking Darren was looking up at Autumn. That's how much the older boy admired the younger one. The light went away when Darren glanced over at the two people Chu had introduced. All that was there then was uncomfortable skepticism. You can just call me Richie. I think you're cute. um, you can just call me Richie. Okay. Darren put on a mellow smile. If it fit him really well. You thought you thought that maybe that was how Darren was normally was, when you knew him and weren't a stranger. Hi, Richie. Tamarack flapped a hand fast in a wave. It was beat like a buzzing wing of a bee, but she kept being like that around Darren, but you didn't think it was on purpose. Hi, Darren. His face squished. The the awkward way Darren was with her still didn't get Tamarack to back off or even slow down. She had thoughts that needed to be said. You're both wearing orange sweaters. Tamarack stopped her fluttering by clasping her hands together over his important revelation. Darren curled his fingers too, gripping tight around the earmuffs that he was holding. She hadn't said it teasingly, not even the silly kind of teasing Chu did, but he was bothered by it for some reason. Yeah, we both like orange. It was a short answer and very serious one. Look at her face though. Look at her face. I just want to squish her cheeks. They're too adorable. Her smile's too cute. The whole time Darren hadn't said one word in response to Tamarack until now. Not when she asked about his mom or said hi. Talking about the same colored clothes, though, couldn't be ignored. Uh-huh, orange is good. One of the top colors. Orange actually used to be... fun fact about me, orange actually used to be my favorite color before I started liking green more. It was a kind of a weird transition, but I thought both colors were cool, though green is a lot cooler in my opinion. Hugh cut into whatever was going on, nodding wisely. But do you know what my favorite color is? How would I know that? Because I think it's pretty obvious. For a second time, he gestured over to Tamarack, but not just any part of her. Autumn pointed towards her mop of sparkly hair. It's golden. That's the best color there is. Uh, she was right. Tamarack had nice hair, whether it was gold or not. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to say. Oh. My favorite colors are purple, pink, red, yellow, and orange. That's a lot of favorites. It's probably about half the colors there are, but alright. Wait, and also, every color Richie likes is my favorite too. He wanted to share favorites with you? You couldn't believe it. Timrick had good opinions on colors. Sharing favorites was an amazing idea. Two of you could get along even better that way. Compared to Tamarack shouting, Darren responded with a peep, but still didn't want to talk to her. But misunderstandings about color ranking couldn't be made either. Red is my real favorite. Orange is still cool. At that point, everybody had talked but colors they like except for you. I've got a favorite color too. I've got a favorite color too. Yeah? What is it? Please tell me all my options are colors. Oh, it is green. Yes, green. Yeah, me too. I like green too. The darker kinds. Yeah. If I'm gonna be completely honest, I like all shades of green. All shades of green are really good. It's just like you mix green with certain colors and different patterns. It just comes out well for some reason. I don't know why. Personally, I like green and black. Green and black is a really good color scheme. Hugh took his trusty notebook out of his pocket. A pencil came with it. He flicked the pages open and began to scribble right there in the moment of the room during the conversation with people. Why are you doing that? School is over. I'm writing down your favorite colors. I want to remember that. The question was answered, and it completely confused her. It made sense to you that she didn't get it. Tamarack didn't write stuff down even when class was happening. Okay. A yelp off her own planned reaction. Confused by normal things and confusing to normal people, that was Tamarack. You're using your other hand. The left one? Yep, that's my good hand. Wow. Tamarack ran out of words to blurt out, and Darren didn't want to do anything on his own, and not with you either. It had to be Chew. So the three of you waited there as the scritchy scratchy sound of Chew's writing went on. The more letters Chew added to his notebook, the more his friends shifted uncomfortably. Hey, Autumn, you're coming to my house today, right? Yeah, I am. That was the third quick and direct answer Chew gave while busy with his task, but it had a big impact on Darren. He smiled relieved. The promise made up for all the stuff Darren hadn't enjoyed since he walked into the classroom and had two new people become a little part of his life. Making a long dash across the paper, probably to underline something, Chew finished off his note to himself and his reply to Darren. Now that Richie and Tamarack are here, I've got to make sure they get to the neighborhood, but I can do that and go to your house. The worn brown book and pencil were tucked into Chew's pocket. He didn't watch what he was doing. You did, and this time no papers fell out. After how many pages he lost, you were kind of impressed he managed to use the notebook without leaving stuff behind him. It's not just gonna be me and Darren, you know. One more is coming too. We got plans. It's been worked out for weeks that we get together after the first day of school. Chew had people to see that afternoon. Kids other than you. That was alright, because you were sure there'd be time for you and Chew to hang out later. He wouldn't completely forget about you. Thinking about it that way, Darren was sort of like you. He was friends with Chew too, and didn't want changes to change that. There was room for all of you. And because of that, Darren, can you go get that guy? He's gonna be standing around outside, not knowing where to go. You can bring him right to the room. Darren sunk his neck deeper into the tall collar that surrounded it, trying not to be called on in class after it was already too late. I don't wanna. His voice had gotten even more raspy when he spoke. Every bit of Darren protested the idea. Oh, come on, you're the fastest out of everybody. Chew, on the other hand, was bold and brave. He sincerely sung Darren's praises to encourage his friend, even though more quietly added a verse of his own success. With running away, on bikes on the best. Did you know I've got a mountain bike? It has a silver paint splatters and the tires have these big treads. It's so fast, you'd be amazed. But besides, we can't go. Tamarack and Richie are here. Do you want to stay with them by yourself while I get him? Darren's eyes closed and he grimaced. If he was looking, he wouldn't have been able to stop himself from glancing at Tamarack. You couldn't tell since that's where his not seeing face turned, and he didn't want to do that either. If he couldn't even handle seeing her too closely, staying alone with Tamarack didn't seem achievable for Darren. Chew knew it. I'll go. He placed the earmuffs on his head as if he was donning armor before battle. Resigned but resolute. Cool, see ya. Yeah, bye. Bye! As Darren sprinted through the door, you doubted he'd be following the no running in the hall rule. Mrs. Murray was still reading over the teacher stuff, so he didn't put a stop to it. She didn't put a stop to it, but Darren should have followed them even if there was no one watching. Tamarack's focus was set on the action. When that was over, and even Darren's bright white vest couldn't be seen, she snapped her gaze towards Chew. She was eager, ready to learn more about the boy whose name hadn't even been said yet. In school, in friends, in everything, Tamarack wanted answers. You're excited. Another kid. Maybe you'd be friends. Yeah, that sounds like me. Chew began to tell you about his friend, even though no one asked anything about your and Tamarack's face. Tamarack and your face. You and Tamarack's faces have been enough. and enough to get Chew going on it. This kid you're gonna meet isn't like the other kids. He's mature. Mature rolled off Chew's tongue slowly, importantly with a fake accent. He didn't know what kind, but he thought a little longer. But when he thought a little longer, Chew much more quickly added some more details. And not mature actually, about some stuff. Not everybody likes him, but I do, and you might too. Oh, guess what? He doesn't go to our school or Darren's school. He goes to a totally different one that costs money because it's for rich people. Those are actually real. You figured out on what accent Chew had been doing. A wealthy person's accent, like from one of the movies with millionaires. What? Really? Does he have to wear a uniform? No, but they have a strict dress code. He's gonna wear a button-collared shirts and stuff. Ew. Neither Chew or Tamarack were sure what to say next. You were the same. The three of you glanced from one face to the other, expressions flitted between encouraging smiles and curious peering. Also, is it just me, or does this music give a Kingdom Hearts feels to it? I don't know why, it just has that feel to it. Until eventually the door was flung open. Darren hadn't stopped to check if it was okay that time. He had a job to do, and it had been a job well done. Darren wasn't alone. Oh! Their entrance was a funny scene. Behind Darren's striking colors and intense steps was a new boy. A stranger came along unconcerned, dressed in muted tones. His hair color almost could have been called black, though dark gray was probably more right. He had black pants that didn't match perfectly with the shade of his head. But there was something about him that made him a strong impression. Tamarack, Chew, and Darren, too, had lots of energy that radiated out all around them. This boy didn't have spirit in his hands, or legs, or body. His fire was concentrated all in his dark brown eyes. Whatever he looked at came against the total force of his being. It made him unignorable. And that part of him was so noticeable that it took you a minute to see he had a birthmark on his neck, and that smile was actually a smirk. Oh, he does have a birthmark on his neck. You're not disappointed on who Chew's other friend actually was. This was more intriguing than you'd been imagining. All your thinking was cut off by a shout from Autumn. Along with that, he punched his fist in the air and welcomed his returning champion and the Found Prince. Yeah, you made it! Darren and the boy he brought had given the impression of opposites when they first came in. What they had in common became clear when they smiled the very same way in the reunion. They both liked the other one. They both liked the other one of them, and they both liked Chew. That's all that mattered. Oh, look at the squad all rolled up like this. This is cool. The two went straight to Chew's sides, Darren on his left and the other on his right. The formation of the trio was perfectly smooth. All of them were already aware of where they stood in the group. So, this is my friend. He's cool, as long as you tell him when he's being dumb. The boy had been the most collected person you've seen in town, besides their teacher, and Chew just called him dumb as soon as you got here. That was kind of incredible. But Chew didn't mean it in a mean way. The new arrival hadn't even blinked when Chew said it. They were friends, and the insult expressed as much affection as a hug Chew and Darren shared earlier. Hello, it's nice to meet you. My name is Baxter. Baxter? Wait. Baxter. Why have I heard that name Baxter before? I swear I've heard it before in maybe some other game, maybe? Wait, yeah, no, it is familiar. That's the exact same name as the white-haired guy from the last Hour of Life, Beginning and Always. Yeah, that's the same name as the other Baxter. Honestly, honestly, I'm comparing them right now. I would not be surprised if this is the same Baxter as in Our Life Beginning and Always. I would not be surprised if he just dyed his hair white when he got older. That's very interesting. Baxter greeted you and Tamarack casually. It was effortless for him to say polite words, though they didn't come with a lot of meaning behind them. Darren was 12 and he was tall, taller than all his friends. But you could have believed he wasn't that old until Chu said so. Nobody needed to tell you Baxter was older than you. No one had told you, but you still knew. More than any kid, Baxter reminded you of teenagers, ones who thought they were smarter than not only anyone younger, but adults too. He had that kind of unquestioned confidence. Even the way he stood there was more grown up than everyone else. That's right. Chu put on his snooty voice again, and did a curtsy to show his mock respect to whoever the boy was that he was about to introduce. He's Baxter Ward, the oldest one of all of us. Wait, did the other Baxter ever say his last name? Wait a second! Hold on! Wait, that is Baxter! That's the same guy from Beginning and Always! That actually is the same person! Holy shit! Wait! No way! Oh my god, the devs are too clever. I swear to God, they are too clever. Dude, that actually is the same Baxter. Okay, I'm looking back at like video from like decades ago. It was part 10 of Beginning and Always. The guy said that with white hair said his name is Baxter Ward. This guy's name is Baxter Ward. They're the same person. Oh my god. Okay, you know what? That's cool. I'm just gonna say, if we eventually see Cove in this game, I swear to God I'm gonna have a heart attack. This has been such a great game so far. Oh man. I honestly was not expecting that. Like I know I've heard Baxter somewhere before, and I checked the previous video. I was like, yeah, it's literally the same guy. Oh, dude, that's so cool. You knew it. Meanwhile, Chu dropped the accent because he wasn't talking about Baxter anymore. And this is Richard O'Mac and Tamarack Bauman. Hi, it's okay if you call me Richie. I can do that. I forgot what voice I gave Baxter back then. One corner of Baxter's mouth was already up. It had always been up, but he left at the other end too, so he could properly smile at you. Hi! Tamarack's normal bubbliness popped right after she said hello. Are you actually rich? She said it doubtfully, with her hands on her hips and her face tilted intently. It added more to her wondering than what she actually said. What would a rich person be doing there? Shouldn't he be doing something else? Something kids like you or her weren't doing? You tried to imagine what the other thing might be. Maybe sitting at the head of a table longer than his whole room, or dancing in the shining ballroom wider than your house. Darren's face twisted in the center and tightened around the edges. He wanted to laugh, and he wanted to stop himself from doing just that. Yes. Baxter said he was a rich kid, as plainly as if you asked him if it was Monday or if he had that hat on his head. He could prove it too. Baxter lives in a huge mansion right high on the mountain. He does? He does. Suddenly, the table and ballroom of your fantasy felt a little more real. Having a huge mansion come up without him needing to say it so curved Baxter's smile more than it already was. Curved Baxter's smile more than it already was. He didn't even have to brag. His house spoke for itself, or rather, the house got Autumn to speak for it, and that was the best brag of them all. If I like the two of you, maybe you'll get to visit. If I like you. Chu's words had shot up in pitch and rang with humor. He threw his hands out in disbelief and had to be careful not to hit one of the multiple people hanging around him. Baxter, you show it to anybody who'll come by. Chu knocked Baxter's arm with his elbows, but it wasn't on purpose. A friendly nudge to go to go along with the rest of his lighthearted gabbing. His smile beaming at Baxter, his eyes dancing over towards you and Tamarack, Chu declared in his stuffiest voice a reply that was, to Chu, a more accurate picture. And also, wait, I just had a thought. If that's Baxter Ward as a kid, that means that this game takes place before our life beginning in all ways. Or at least this part of the game takes place before that. That's so cool! Dude, if we get to see him dye his hair white sometime in this story, that would be amazeballs. Please come see my big, cool house. Why would I even have it if no one was gonna see it and think it's big and cool? That's him. Autumn needed a pause to steady himself before he finished what he was talking about. But it is a really cool house. I would show it off if it was mine. Hugh had to be honest about his friends and himself. When it was flattering and when it wasn't, and ended his show generously. Baxter said nothing, and he didn't laugh. He just glided a knuckle along the edge of his swoopy bangs. The strands curved with emotion, then slipped right back into their normal resting spots. His smirk didn't drop out of place either, with so much not being different, it was easy to tell that his cheeks turned pinker. Hugh had sort of made fun of Baxter, even if it was a joke. If Baxter was gonna blush, you would have thought he was embarrassed because of the teasing. But no matter how you looked at it, nothing about the older kid's expressions was shy or uncomfortable. He was as calm as ever, maybe even a little happier than before it happened. Anyway, Baxter's introduction was over. Chu had decided it. Now that everybody is here, I've got something very important to say. Though he said everybody, Chu's attention was squarely on you and Tamarack. It was a pause for dramatic effect as Chu smiled knowingly. Richie and Tamarack, I hereby invite you to join our club. What? Darren shouted out like Chu just announced he was going to get married next week and make it 10 years old. Not so loud, please. The gentle scolding was way more startling than Darren's yell. You'd forgotten Mrs. Murray was still at her desk. She was so quiet and so much like a teacher. She fit as naturally in a classroom as a whiteboard or a globe. Things that were there and should be there, but you didn't think about. Well, you got a reminder Baxter had never even known. Oh, hello, Mrs. Murray. Nice to see you, Baxter. Darren unzipped his lips. He had to settle for a silence, silently pinching his brows and pouting. Chu, who was definitely the leader of the pack, wasn't gonna let his words on his decision be questioned. He folded his arms in disapproval. From his mom, then his friend, Darren wasn't having the best moment. Autumn couldn't stay firm for long enough. Instead, he thought of his club and smiled. Me, Baxter, and Darren are a group. We all go all around having fun. We're practically famous in this town. Yeah, me, you, and Baxter do. Quietly, firmly, not yelling, Darren pointed out the members again as if it meant something. Richard is one thing, but Darren glanced flicked to Tamarack for a single second. She's a girl. So it did. I like how Tamarack's smiling knowingly, like, yeah, I know that. Who cares? So it did mean something to him. After this whole time, with Darren acting so weird with Tamarack, you heard why. He was a boy who didn't play with girls. The boys' club. Darren gestured around the semicircle of kids to bring attention to the boyness of the collection. How can we be a boys' club if we're not all boys? He whined in a whisper. Even if you and Tamarack and Baxter were right there, Darren was trying to keep the conversation between him and Chu alone. Unfortunately, it was Autumn he was talking to, and Chu made extra efforts to include the two of you. He freely giggled at the problem he even presented. Darren, your mom's a teacher, and guess what? Chu gave a little look over his shoulders towards the possible new group mates. His dad, he's also a teacher at a different school. And with a slow shake of his head, Chu smugly chided his friends. And you don't even know problem solving. Listen, okay, so I'm a boy and it's my club. That means it's a boys' club. What's the issue with that? He didn't get an answer though. Chu didn't expect to. Darren could only gawk as if he witnessed a magic trick. Chu had taken a black heart card from Darren into his fingerless glove's hand, and when he revealed it again, he had transformed into a red king. Or it had transformed. You wondered if Chu was a sorcerer all along, and he only said you were one to cover for himself. He had a way with words with people. You and Tamarack being knew wasn't what gave Chu an advantage. He was like that no matter what. Baxter chuckled if a pleased audience member of the event, and then he shrugged with his hands in his pockets. I don't mind if they tag along, as long as they can keep up. Great. Baxter's agreement was given directly, and Chu took Darren's acceptance of his idea as a sure thing, even if he hadn't exactly gone there yet. You expected you and Tamarack to see it too, and put a choice in your hands. That was the only question. So, what do you think? No thanks. I don't want to. For all of Chu's feats of the conversation's wizardry, it was equally amazing how simply Tamarack could defeat them simply by not taking an interest in saying so. That was actually the second time Chu invited her to play with him and his friends. Yesterday she had said maybe, but today she had said no. Darren suddenly frowned more. He never wanted her, but was offended she didn't want him to. Baxter only smirked harder. He already had friends. Being turned away by a stranger didn't make a difference. He was disappointed by Tamarack not considering it, and by his friends' unwelcoming attitudes. No one seemed to care like he cared, even when he tried his best to get everyone to get along. His expression was unhappy enough for Tamarack to realize with shock at the impact she'd had. Thanks for inviting me. I like you, Chu. I'm not sure I like those other kids, though. Chu bewildered. Well, dude, Tamarack is one that just speaks her mind. She does not care. Chu bewildered snorts and one laugh followed an attempt at comfort. Baxter was the one who laughed. I could probably play with you guys sometimes. Oh, we got 2 pages of responses. Good grief. I don't like boys who don't like girls. How, Chu? She turned you down so fast, you teased. Yeah, you know what? Why not tease him? It'd be funny. 2 dismissals. It was total failure. Chu still smiled. He could find some sad humor in how badly it all went down. Nobody has joined, but you'll probably regret it for the rest of your life if you don't. It's the coolest club there is. The Tamarack? Don't listen to Darren. I'm sorry he said that about you being a girl in our group. And that being bad. Darren's gaze fell, guiltily, and he didn't finish what he was gonna say. He may not have wanted Tamarack to join, but Chu did. Being the reason it didn't work out, it was unintended betrayal of his friendship. Darren does not know how to talk to girls, or how to act around them. I think the only ladies he can say 10 words to are his mom and Tamarack's granny. Chu! Autumn tossed his hands up completely unapologetically. But you thought of a phrase you heard your ma use before. Don't shoot the messenger. I don't know. That's what I noticed. But it doesn't matter anyways. You can't live your life like this. You're a big kid, Darren. What if Tamarack looks up to you because you're so much older and wiser? Are you not even gonna be able to say hi to her? I said hi, didn't I? You said hi to Richie, not to Tamarack. She greeted you. But she was, she was too close, I know. How about you just say hello right now? It's not too late. Yeah. Tamarack was instantly into for that idea. She glanced upwards into Darren's eyes, grinning expectantly and swishing her shoulders side to side. Say hi. It was hard to tell if she didn't realize she was giving Darren a hard time. That it was more to him than a normal hello, or if that was a whole plan. But anyway, Darren could do nothing except stare hard at T-Rex through a jig. Dude, this is embarrassing. Yeah, it is for you. You can't treat girls like that just 'cause they're girls. Darren groaned through clenched teeth. Darren and T-Rex, not one of them were budging. No low voice came from that area around Darren. It actually wasn't him, it was behind him. Hello, I think your scarf is so nice, Tamarack. Also, those are such great shoes, Richie. What? Wait. I like how it was just not Darren. Oh, that's too good. Darren couldn't stay quiet for long. His mom had given up on reminding him. I hope you like my earmuffs too. Darren spun around in a flurry. The perpetrator had already breezed back to shoes at her side. Baxter stood there, self-satisfied and silent like he had been the whole conversation. He may not have seen it with his own eyes, but Darren knew it was Baxter. He had a pretty distinct voice, and it wasn't as if anyone else could have done it. It was a pleasing answer to Tamarack's ears. No matter who said it, she giggled as she toyed with her nice scarf. Do you really think that? The real Darren turned away, uncomfortable, and with a face pinker than the accessory in question. I'm impressed, Darren. You're a ventriloquist. uh, I like your earmuffs. Me too. Darren tucked his head into his vest as much as he could. The main part of his face that you could still see were his eyes, which had gotten huge and gone from defiant to shy and maybe a little hopeful. It reminded you of a baby turtle peeking out of its shell for the first time. Guys, Hugh had lost hold of the situation. He viewed it from the outside, the same as he might have done while watching toddlers tumble around the playground. You know, I don't invite just anybody to the group. That reminder was meant for Darren. He sent the explanation your and Tamarac's way next. Before it was me and Darren since we were babies. Then a couple years ago there was Baxter, and it's only been three of us since then until right now. Yeah, it has been. So why do they have to be part of the club? Good you asked. Richie broke into my backyard accidentally and took me on a crazy investigation about Paper Airplane. And he got here a day ago. He's already looking out for me. Normally I'm the one doing that. And Tamarack was the one who made the paper airplane for a stranger because it would be fun. He's the type of kid who hides for who knows how long in piles of leaves so she could jump out to spook ya. What's not to like about that? Lastly, the three of us are all neighbors. That's gotta count for something. Even if it doesn't, what were you thinking we'd do? Run away from them when me and you and Baxter are in the cul-de-sac? Try to make Tamarack and Richie leave their own street? No, we should be friends and hang out together. It makes no sense not to let them join the club. Hugh's debate speech roused Tamarack. Her fists were clenched and her expression was full of vigor. But you were sure she was inspired to join Chu's club. It strengthened your bond as neighbors, and only made her flimsy connection to Darren and Baxter more obvious. Darren wordlessly put extra space between him and the shaking girl. Baxter smiled at Chu, supporting his friends while being totally indifferent to the results of the effort. When it came to yourself, Chu's description of why he thought you should be a member, it left me confused. Made you smile. He was always nice to you. Hugh got a sense of his audience's mixed reactions. Instead of a full house roaring with applause, it was more like seeing a mostly empty theater with one person clapping in the back row. He worked with it. Well, they haven't been here for long, and I know them better than you two guys. You guys know them. And the same goes for Richie and Tamarack. They, they know me better than either of you. It's different for me. I like all four of you. People get people can join later, and neither of you have to be an official member to do stuff with us. I'm just letting you know what's up. A lot of things bothered Darren, and he showed it. Dexter so far took everything like it was nothing. She went up and he went up and he went down, but always tried to get back up at the end. That was the boys' club. Chew was still Chew, and you decided Darren was cute, funny. That Darren kid was okay. I mean, he didn't really treat Tamarack very nicely though, but I think he's an okay kid. He's not terrible. But he's not overly good like Baxter here is. Um, I think I think he was okay. Also, Baxter was kind of mysterious. That was so cool. Baxter was super weird to you. You thought Baxter was sort of stuck up. Um, you didn't know what to think about the Baxter guy. I would say he's mysterious. Even though you didn't want to be in it yourself, the club had a lot of fun to meet, and you get to see them around probably a lot. How tap sounded marked the end of the meeting. It made you think of a hammer hitting a podium in a very important official gatherings. But it was actually Mrs. Murray as she straightened papers against her desk. Her teacher placed them down in a neat pile as she rose to her feet. It's time to go, everyone. I'm leaving, and I can't let you stay here alone. Am I giving anyone here a ride? Her gaze was squarely on Chew and Baxter with that question. Or would you like me to call your families? It was you and Tamarack who got the look with that one. The first kid ready with an answer was Tamarack. She yelled out with no hesitation. I'm okay. Following after Tamarack, though, definitely not talking to her, piped Darren. He he and his friends already had plans, but he sheepishly looked at his mom for permission to go through with it. You and Baxter can come with us, can't they? Right off, she nodded, and her son smiled, relaxed. Mrs. Murray held up one finger and added a note before anyone could get ahead of themselves. They can't stay all night. I'll need to take both of them home before dinner. All right. Thank you for letting us visit. Yeah, thanks. What about you, Richie? Um, who knows? You said not wanting to give a real answer. No, I'd say I'm fine. That's good. Richard, come to my house. Tamarack pumped her arms like a dark blue like the dark blue carpet was water underfoot. She and she needed to row through an indoor pond. We can walk back together. On your own? No, together. And you can meet Omi and Opa when we get there. That would be so cool. Yeah. All right. Well, how about we finish packing now? On it. At your teacher's suggestion, gathering outdoor clothes, checking inside and under desks, and looking through the bags to see if most important possessions were still there was all done. Not a single glove would be missing or one pencil out of place if Mrs. Murray could help it. During the final sweep of the room, there was an eager knock on the door. Who's this? Mrs. Murray took long strides, reaching the door far sooner than any of her students could. When it opened, you saw your ma framed by dozens of colored paper leaves taped around the frame. It was great. She could see you and your new teacher in class and everything. Hi, I'm going to assume that you're Mrs. Murray? Yes, but Shannon is fine. And you're Mrs. O'Mac? Right. Right as well. I'm Opal. Richard is my child. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming to pick up Richard. You stopped listening on their conversation as the two grown-ups chatted about each other and a little of you. Darren wasn't as polite. He sighed at the continuation of their adult greetings. Maybe he thought that was boring stuff. Chew, Chew snickered softly while giving Darren a small shove with his shoulder. It brought some liveliness back and got Darren to smile. Ma noticed the cluster of kids then. Her eyes fell on you, and her conversation with the teacher stopped. Richard, I made it. And hello again, Chew. Hi, Ma. Hi. She strolled further into the room to join you and Mrs. Murray stay by the door. Who's the rest of this fun bunch? Ma asked wonderingly, glancing across the faces of the three other kids still there. Class was long over, and you were too closely gathered for it to be random people who happened to be in the same place. Why you'd all come together was of great interest to your ma. Two of those people were Chew's friends. One was your seatmate and your neighbor and your friend. And it was her, as usual, who first shot out a reply. Tamarack never took long to think about what she'd say. That's why she was always so far ahead of everyone with words. You're Richard's ma? Wow. You don't look like his ma. You'd be surprised. Some bits of me ended up in there. Yeah, we don't look that different. A playful smile tugged at your ma's mouth. Tamarack felt inspired to have more curiosity satisfied. Do you look more like your dad? Richard is like him in certain ways. Her smile dropped, but Ma had a reply for that question right before you even had fully heard it. But our family is me and him. It's always been. He won't come by to visit. She was telling Tamarack the truth. Tamarack wasn't going to see him. You hadn't even met him. You'd only been told stuff about him when you were younger. Ma said what his race and nationality were, and hers too, so that way you could always know your own history. You were... Oh! Wait, I can enter my own? Okay. Okay, I do actually remember most of my heritage, and I do remember that I am mostly... I actually checked with 23andMe or whatever, and I actually got back some results. I am mostly Irish, so I'm pretty sure I am mostly Irish, but... Wait, enter a racial identity. White, black, Asian... Wait, actually, does Irish count? I want to say Irish counts. Oh no, it was Irish... Well, I'm American, so that's my nationality, so I'm guessing Irish will be my... I don't know, I'm kind of confused. I'm just gonna roll with it. Irish. Oh, wait, what? Oh, I can use the arrow keys. That's cool. I had to click clear. Irish American. Let's just go Irish American. Wait, what? Oh, wait, I get it. Oh, wait, I get it. Okay, yep, I see what I'm doing. I see what I'm doing now. So I type in that, then click it. American. There we go. That's it. It had an American heritage. At the same time, your mom explained how having you in the first place worked. She didn't have a husband or a boyfriend or anything, but she wanted a kid, so she had you. Mom talked about how you didn't need the entire other person to have a baby, or it only took a small part. She was able to go get that from a special hospital. It was kind of confusing, but you were able to understand that whoever your dad was, he wasn't your parent. It was a guy Ma didn't know, and you didn't know. You were happy with the life you got, but you did hope you could see him somehow. Honestly, it's weird to think about. Someone else helped you be born, and you had no idea who that person was. Oh, okay. Sorry. Frowning, Tamarack pinched and pulled at the frayed edge of her sweater sleeve. One finger slipped through the tiny hole on the cuff. It, it was gonna rip even more doing that, but that might have been why it was torn in the first place. It's fine, you didn't know, and now you do. There was a lot of not knowing for her and you, but you did recognize the tone of your mom was using on Tamarack. A low voice and extra emphasis bend to the words. It meant, I'm not mad this time because it won't happen again. Isn't that right? Tamarack gave a tiny nod, stretching the striped sleeve all the way past the tips of her fingers on her free hand. The conversation had been dominated by Tamarack, but still hanging around was the boys' club. They could hear everything you said about your family. You tried to figure out their reaction. Chu was still, besides shifting his narrow gaze between the friend on his left and the one on his right. Suddenly, he seemed like the teacher of the classroom, keeping a stern eye on the students if any sign of trouble. The two of them were on their best behavior, quiet and blank-faced. When she realized you were watching, he became regular old Autumn again, grinning wide. Well, it's good to meet you, Tamarack. That dropped Tamarack's jaw. She was certain she hadn't said her name yet. You knew me? Not for sure, but I thought you looked like you'd be our neighbor, Tamarack. Now bashful, Tamarack hid her face with her hands. The sweater was finally released from her squeezing grip. While she wasn't looking, Ma gave you a sneaky wink. You told her enough about yesterday for her to figure it out. What about everyone else? The question was kind of forced. There was still an awkward feeling left behind after. Tamarack bringing up your dad that you never met. But that was something they were gonna figure out sooner or later. So after all, it was kind of good it got settled with everybody at once. And Baxter took an initiative, properly introducing himself. My name is Baxter. I don't go to the school. I attend Jarrett Witt Academy. You do? That's quite impressive. Thank you. You were starting to think he couldn't feel uncomfortable even if he wanted to. He was a cool cucumber so much he got stuck that way. Like if you made a weird face for too long. Except you were pretty sure adults were lying when they said that could happen. And trust me, they are. that actually is just a myth. He got the conversation to change though. Your mom was more at ease and gave a purposeful look to the only kid who hadn't spoken yet. And you are? I'm Darren. That's my mom. Darren couldn't meet her eyes. Instead, he stared at his shoes and limply lifted an arm towards the door. Mrs. Murray was leaning against the wall there. Her arms were patiently folded. Ma shifted her gaze to between the group of students and the teacher with a big smile. As a Ma, she liked seeing other parents with their kids. It was fun for her, you suggested. It's nice to meet you too, Darren. His cheeks puffed out like puffed out frog-like. It wasn't so fast and unexpected. Ma laughed. She usually did not like laughing at other people's kids, other adults, not unless they were telling a joke. She laughed at everyone's jokes, even ones that weren't funny. Your mom pressed her palm against her chest and breathed in through her nose to steady herself. You've barely been here 2 days, and I already need almost a full hand to count all your acquaintances you have. You work fast. She tilted to grin your way, raising one eyebrow higher. Are you ready to go? Ma, me and Tamarack were wondering if she could come with us. Certainly, I'd be happy to bring her back. Ma stayed put despite that agreement. She was unsure not about you or Tamarack, but the 3 other kids who were left. That was when Mrs. Murray got out of her perch and came to stand by your son. I'm driving Darren, Chu, and Baxter to my house. It's called the boys' I'll call the boys' parents and let them know. It seems you've all arranged everything. You got your bags already too. We should really be going then. Have a good day, boys. With a parting smile and gesture of her hand to follow, Ma turned and walked away. See you, everybody. Chu and Baxter said bye as the three of you were leaving. All of them waves, though. Darren's movements were way stiffer than the other guys. Bye, Chu. Bye, Darren. Bye, Baxter. Bye, teacher. She shouted over her shoulder while sticking close to you and Ma. And after that yell, Tamarek whispered just to you. Sorry again. You don't have to feel bad. Ma held the door open for you and Tamarek to drop by. Then she followed you out. Your first day of school was over. You took the exact same path out as you had come in, just going the opposite way. Down the stairs, through the checkered hall, out the big double doors in the front. But when you were outside, the way home changed. You had to go through almost empty parking lot at the side of the school building. Ma had brought the car to come and get you. Wispy clouds hung over your group of three. Nobody else was out. They already gone home and were probably teachers who were still in the classroom. Tamarek ran freely across the tarmac. It was easy to figure out which car to go to when nobody else was parked anywhere close by. You and your mom strolled side by side until you rejoined Tamarek by the vehicle. Once she unlocked it, Ma opened the backside door. You were too little to sit in the front, according to her. That meant Tamarek would be too small too. You were taller than her. But you found out that Tamarek didn't want to sit there. She liked the middle. It was funny how round and weird it was. She also liked being able to see up to the front easily. Ooh. While you both buckled in and Ma got into the driver's seat, Tamarek told you about how she'd poke her Omi and Opa from that spot all the time. Even though neither of them were in that car, she was happy to choose the middle anyway. You like the window seats. Yeah, honestly, I actually really like the window seats. After Ma double-checked that everyone had their seatbelts on, you pulled out of the school lot. You jiggled in the firm cushion because all of the vibration of the car. The seatbelt wasn't just good for crashes, it could also stop you from slipping out of your seat on the bumpy roads. It was quiet besides the humming sound that also came from the way the car moved. The world looked different from the back seat of the car. A blur of globs and browns and reds flitted out of the corner of your eye. From where you could see ahead, there was an endless stream of blue coming at you. And then it all slowed down. You could see individual trees, each of their branches and leaves that had fallen. The sky seemed more solid. Your neighborhood was already in reach. It had been a whole journey in the morning, walking with Chu and Tamarek. That trip only took a few minutes, driving with Ma and Tamarek again. Ma parked at the end of the road right in front of your house. There wasn't a garage to use, but it didn't really matter if you parked on the street. You couldn't block the path if it didn't go anywhere else. You, her, and Tamarek got up and stood around together at the sidewalk. Thanks for driving, Richard's Ma. You can come by my house now. A lot has happened since she talked about that in the classroom. Still, Tamarek hadn't forgotten the plan she made. A visit to the Bauman household? Am I invited too? That's right, your mom hadn't been there when Tamarek had come up with what you do after school. It was funny seeing Ma ask for permission to go over to somebody's place. She was the person who was supposed to decide if it was okay to do something or not. But your mom was nice. Yeah! Thank you. I had been hoping to meet the rest of our neighbors, but I waited for Richard to be here before making the rounds. Lead the way, Tamarek. Tamarek would have tried to do that even if Ma didn't ask her to. And now Leader spun around to change directions and marched down the sidewalk towards the big gray house next to yours. There was no way you'd get left behind. You stuck right by her, while your mom went along after both of you. As Tamarek got closer, her pace got faster, a steady strut that turned into a speedy skip by the time she reached the porch. Alright. She was eager to get home, and she wanted to make sure she had arrived there first. Okay, so, wow, that was quite a lot that happened. I think now is actually a pretty good time for us to leave this episode here. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like, comment what you think, share this video with your friends, and be sure to subscribe to the bell so you don't miss a single notification. I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!
You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason.